Overtired. So tired. Overtired.
Hello, this is the Overtired podcast. I am your host, Jeff Severns Gunsel. I'm one of three hosts. Here comes another, Christina Warren.
Hello.
And Brett Terpstra.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey.
Are you thinking about pink elephants?
I am not thinking about pink elephants. Brett tried to psych me out before.
That is steel will. That is presence of mind. I appreciate that.
Steel will. That's it's not the first time.
That's my porn name.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that across a very large box. That's like, I feel like porn when I was a kid came on VHS, but in really big boxes.
Yeah, why was that?
I don't know, because you're trying to be discreet, I assume,
right.
But like, instead you're...
The one time I ever bought like hard copy porn in my life, I ordered it on DVD and they sent it in this DVD case that was a like Library of Congress exploration of like Mark Twain's work. That's what it said on like the DVD case.
A little cover up.
That's funny.
Even the DVD was labeled as such, and then you pop it in and it's like, it's just porn.
And, I mean, that's just asking for trouble.
So Elle and I, my girlfriend, we have known each other for like a decade, and she used to come over and hang out when Aditi was traveling. Like Aditi actually arranged that because she knew that Elle and I were so similar in our like behavior and conversation styles. So she was like, "This is the perfect hangout buddy for my husband."
Too perfect, it turns out.
Yeah,
turned out really well for two of us. But Elle was going through our DVD collection, and I just like slipped that in there.
She's like, "Ooh, Mark Twain."
Yeah, she was. I don't remember if it was actually Mark Twain, but it was Library of Congress something, and she was very impressed that I had that. And
so cultured.
I had to admit that's not what that is.
That is the last work of Steel Will. Steel William. Wow. All right. There's that. Where the hell do we go from there?
One of the things that holds my relationship together is my willingness to read Instagram memes out loud on the couch to my girlfriend. She loves it. She will request, "Hey, could you see something funny and then force me to listen to you read it out loud?" It's like a staple of our relationship. So in that vein, I wanted to read you guys something I found today.
Okay.
Only Christina, I think, will appreciate this. He was a boy. She was a girl. I am a sentient octopus. He was a punk. She did ballet. I have 8 prehensile legs. He wanted her. She'd never tell. I crept up from the bowels of hell. All of her friends, and those two as well, will fall when the seas start to swell. He was a skater boy. She said, "See you later, boy." Neither significant to me. I'm a cephalopod, a miniature elder god, and soon all my brethren will be free.
What is that?
It's Avril Lavigne, but with octopi.
I was gonna say, here's what was so funny. Like literally from the minute you said he was a boy, I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, it's a skater boy thing. Like I was like, I don't know anything else about what this is, but I know that this is an Avril reference. Like
That's
instantly, like from the first word you said, I was like, yep, I got it. I know it is.
I figured you would.
Absolutely.
I actually didn't recognize it until I got to he was a skater boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm a cephalopod, a miniature elder god. Soon all my brethren will be free.
God, now the song is going to be in my head for the rest of the day.
I've had "Suck" by Pigface in my head since this morning, but in the kitchen, when I started singing it, it came out Sinatra style.
That's nice. I like when that happens.
Like it's there is no God up in the sky tonight. No sign of heaven anywhere in sight. Like it just came out like a real I obviously not like that. I'm just telling you the words, and you can imagine.
Yeah, no, I can see it.
I won't sing it for you, but I had a whole thing going. It was really, really like a lot of swing to it. It was good.
Anything that rhymes tonight, you're definitely in Sinatra territory. Well done.
I feel like we segue into mental health corner as is our tradition.
Yeah, I think so.
I can kick it off if you like.
Kick it off.
Fucking everything's normal. Like not even my usual like I'm so tired of being stable. Like I'm normal today. Like I feel social. I'm a little bit bummed because we're going on a trip next week and Elle is I have gotten to a point with COVID where I'm like, you know what? I'm good most of the year, but I'm willing to take a risk for a vacation. Elle is not at that point, and I had to like cancel plans with my friends because she wants to like isolate before we leave so that she's not putting her family in danger. And I get it. And our friend of the show, Brian, would totally be on board with this. But me, I get I get annoyed that I still have to think about it. And I have to be careful making plans with friends that I will only see once, maybe twice a year. And I have to like arrange things with outdoor seating and masking, and it annoys me. I'm done. I have COVID fatigue for sure.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot more masks lately in Minneapolis.
Yeah. I've noticed some, but I'm also I'm where you were, Brett. I got to that place like last year.
Sure.
And
yeah, we all did. But I don't leave the house much, so it hasn't mattered.
No, I know you don't. I know, but what I'm saying is like I know exactly what you mean because that's exactly where I was like a year ago. I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like I got it. Like I've been okay. Like I'm done. I'm gonna do the right things. If people, want me to mask up or whatever, I will. But I'm not doing the whole like charade. And I'm sorry, it has been a charade for the most part, about like, oh, I'm not going to go out, I'm not going to like travel, I'm not going to like live my life. Like,
well, I mean, that's not purely performative, that's just extremely cautious.
No, most of it is performative. Some people, I think it is true, but I think it's gotten to the point that for most people, in my experience, it is completely performative because the precautions they're taking don't even make any difference. Like we're all getting sick anyway.
We're gonna hear from Brian.
I'm not talking about Brian. Like they have a different like threat model. But I said most people. I said and but and I'm sorry. I think that's absolutely true. Like it's just at this point I'm just like, okay, like you do all the right things, and the masks, if you're not wearing the right type of mask, it doesn't even like, it's like,
sure. I feel like at this point everyone's down with the K or N95.
No, I disagree. I feel like, so I spend a lot of time at doctor's offices lately, and the one they give out is just the cheap paper mask, and then that seems to be what people are buying also. And not only that, but like
that's performative.
And not only that, but when I'm at the doctor, I'm noticing more and more like nurses, as a group, nurses have a fair amount of conservatives among them,
right?
And I'm noticing a lot of noses. So they're not only wearing like a mask that really isn't designed to keep COVID from spreading. I'm sure it has some impact, but it's not designed to do that. But now there's noses as well. And that's the part that's really frustrating and feels kind of, I mean, it feels performative, but it's not even that bothers me. It's more that how quickly we just threw away the idea of like, this is the kind of mask that works.
Yeah.
Well,
so here's my pitch for KN95 masks with the little metal band that goes over your nose. You can talk to someone for 5 minutes without every 30 seconds having to pull your mask back up over your nose.
Right.
I watch like city council meetings where the people yelling at the council have shitty masks on, and they're like the whole time it's just this constant distraction of pulling their mask up over their nose. Just get KN95 masks. They stay in place. They're so much better and effective, and they actually, provide some protection.
Yeah.
For you and everyone else. But anyway, so I'm going to see Dan Peterson and hopefully Dave Chartier in Chicago, then have breakfast with friend of the show Aaron Dawson.
Nice.
If all goes well and we come up with plans that are safe for everybody, that's my Saturday and Sunday, and then I'm in Michigan for a week. and it's going to be a lot like, what was it? Dusty or Sandy? What was your place in Utah called?
Sandy, Utah.
Sandy, Utah. It's gonna be a little depressing. We got a Airbnb, and there's not a lot around. I might make a trip to to Ann Arbor. Do you guys know Marina Appleman?
Yes, she's the best.
I haven't told her I'm coming yet, but
no, you have to. No, yeah, that's the
she's
best.
in Ann Arbor, and if I get a chance, I would like to see her. It'll be fun.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Fun. She's fantastic. I got to meet her in person. She came to when she was in New York once, and she's so great.
She's just awesome. She's awesome.
The best.
Russian. She'll tell you stories about Soviet Russia.
Yeah. Also, like, because she's been through it, like, she's just, I love her because she's just like very direct and like funny and just,
so smart.
So fucking smart. Like, brilliant. Yeah. She's a math or economics or something at math at like
applied mathematics, I think.
I was gonna say some it's better than like normal math. Yeah. At Ann Arbor. So yeah. She'll
probably I'll tell her we talked about her. She'll listen to this and tell me, you have no idea what I actually teach, do you? And I'll say, no, it's over my head. I don't really know.
Smart, honestly. Like we know that it's really good. We know that it's a very, very good school, and that it's something like very, very like smart. Very smart.
She taught me how to say LaTeX. She corrected me back in like.
I thought it's LaTeX.
So there, as long as you get the k sound at the end, as long as you don't say the X,
right? Which I did.
You can say LaTeX, you can say LaTeX, you can say LaTeX, as long as you don't say latex.
And why is the X a K?
Really good question. Because I bet she would know the answer.
Because it came from tech, which was like the I don't know. Ask the fucking Unix guys is the only thing I can get at that.
Yeah. You know what? That would be a great podcast. Ask the fucking Unix guys.
I mean,
I'm your host, Jeff Severance Gunsel. I'm here with Christina Warren, Brett Terpstra.
I got to meet Ken Thompson very briefly at a scale a couple weeks ago, and he was lovely. And he's 80 and he's still programming and doing cool things. The video of his talk actually went up, and it got on Hacker News, and there were a number of people who were acting just like some of the assholes in the room who were like, they were expecting him to talk about Unix and Go, and he didn't. Instead, he like shared this very human and like kind of personal story about this thing that he called it like his 75-year like project. But it's really been this thing that he's been actively working on since the 80s, where he's like digitized every like recorded song from like the 1900s to like from 1900 to 1999 or whatever. And it's he basically created Napster is the long and the short of it, but it's actually pretty incredible. Like he legally obtained all these songs and stuff, and then encoded them, and like there's player pianos, and it's not just recorded stuff, but also things like stuff that beyond like player piano scrolls and other sorts of media. And anyway, it was a really great talk. But when he finished giving his talk, and I'd met him the day before, and I was just like kind of fangirling. I was like, "Thank you for everything you've given us." Because, Ken Thompson. And he told me, he was like, "I'm nervous about my talk." And I was like, "Oh, it's going to be great." And then a guy asked at the end, he was basically like, "Why did you just waste our time?" He didn't say, "Why did you waste our time?" But that was the undercurrent. He was like, "I was expecting you to talk about Go or Unix or this or that. Why did you just talk about this thing?" And like very much the undercurrent was like, why did you just like waste our time in this? And I was so pissed at the time. I wanted to boo the guy, and I didn't, because that's you don't do that, Christina. Don't do that. But I do regret not having like at the end, like when Ken was almost sort of apologizing, I was not yelling out like, "We love you, Ken," because I think that the vast majority of the audience really enjoyed it. But there were some people on Hacker News who were like, well, actually, in certain things, they're like, well, he's not that. I don't understand why everybody, like kisses his ass so much. He was factually wrong about some things when he came by the Debian booth. And I'm like, the dude is 80 years old, and he wasn't aware of like a Raspberry Pi shortage because it doesn't affect him personally.
Sure.
Like, fuck you. Like,
also,
honestly,
everybody fucking knows about what happens at the Debian booth. Fucking stays at the Debian booth.
Right.
Exactly.
Shit.
It's the first rule of Debian booth.
It really is. But no, but you had like some people in Hacker News who were just being total like dicks about some of the stuff. But I thought it was like a really beautiful story. Anyway, that was a tangent that came out of you talking about the we should have the Ask the Unix guys.
I really enjoyed that one.
It could just be a segment.
Tangent.
But seriously, in the show notes, we'll have a link to the video from Scale, because it's a really great talk, and I think it's just like in its simplicity and like in its humanness, like I actually thought it was really compelling. I definitely get the sense that Mr. Thompson is probably on the spectrum of some sort, because he's dedicated all this time and all this work into like digitizing and cataloging all this music. I don't get the sense that he's listened to much of the music other than like figuring out how it could be as losslessly encoded as possible. Like that like I didn't get a sense that it would you know what I mean? Like I didn't get a sense that it was anything more of like, I need to complete this thing, rather than like I have great love for the works themselves.
Do either of you know what that condition is called, where you don't like music? Or like music has no effect on you at all? You don't feel anything? You don't hear?
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. He doesn't have that, but I don't know. I know what you're talking about.
I have a friend with that, Allison Sheridan. She's not shy about it. She runs the Podfeet podcast, and like just music means nothing to her. Like she could hear it, and like if it doesn't actively annoy her, it just has like no meaning. There's no like I feel stuff when I listen to music. Like that's the whole point of music for most people, I think, is like feeling things. That would be so weird. Anyway, sorry, Christina, how's your mental health?
Pretty good. It's pretty good. It's been kind of it's a busy work week, and it's going to continue to kind of be, busy for the next, few days and into next week and stuff. But it's pretty good. Grant is out of town. He went to go visit his brother, who he has not seen in person in, I don't know, in probably 15 years.
Jeez.
They had a falling out for a while, and they haven't been talking. And then they started talking like a year and change ago for the first time in a really long time. So he's in Hawaii with his brother. Seems to be going well. So I've got like, I'm like in this interesting thing where I'm like alone in the house, which is kind of nice. I mean, I'm kind of like, it's kind of weird, but it's like I haven't been alone in this space. Like I've been alone like other places, but I haven't been alone here. And like,
do you talk to yourself when you're alone in the house?
No.
Do you say things out loud to yourself?
Not really. Not so much. Sometimes maybe, but like not really. Like I think out loud to myself a lot, but I don't. You know what I mean? Like I think stuff to myself. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? But I don't usually verbalize it. But,
okay. I like narrate my life when I'm all alone and no one's around. I just say it all out loud.
Like Ron Howard in Arrested Development.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
That's awesome.
Which is no longer on Netflix, even though they produced the last 2 seasons.
Which is so fucked up. And we talked about it. Yeah, it's a stupid rights thing. They had like a 10-year, I guess, contract, and they didn't want to renew it. And the shitty thing is you can get season 4 from iTunes or Google Play or whatever, but season 5, they never released as a way to buy. And then the season 4 remix, which actually made season 4 better, was also not released on home video. So the only way you can get it is if you pirate it, which is fucking stupid. Wow, so... Right. It's so dumb, and because Netflix co-produced it, some people are like, oh, it'll just show up on Hulu or whatever, and I'm like, no, Netflix like paid for the co-production, so they'd have to buy them out, and I doubt Disney cares.
Yeah,
so it's just shitty.
Wow, that sucks.
It does.
I went and saw the movie Metropolis on Sunday.
Okay. Oh wow, which one?
With what soundtrack?
Sorry, it's the original one, and the soundtrack was actually A Man on an Organ.
Yes,
that's live, but live.
I saw in Minneapolis. I saw a live production. This was back in like maybe 1999, 98, 99. I saw they showed. I can't remember the name of the theater. Something Oak.
Oh yeah, the Oak Street Cinema. It's long gone. It was a great one.
Yeah, and they showed it, and they had a live organ accompaniment. It was fantastic. Cool. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's what happened here. And it was the full like almost 3-hour version of Metropolis.
Oh hell yeah!
Such a cool story where they found like a complete version in Argentina, but it was 16 millimeter, and so they have to like, and then they were able to restore missing scenes via description, I think based on the Nazis' censorship files from the movie. I mean, it's really,
That's
but
amazing.
I bring it up just because like I mean, even though I missed movies so much during the pandemic, I have not made great use of movie theaters since it has essentially ended. And I have been so in my head lately, took on a new role with my organization, taking on a new project, that it was just wonderful to just lay back in a seat and let someone tell me or show me a story.
Yeah.
Especially that one. I've always wanted to watch it. I had no idea how fucking good it was. I mean, I heard, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, like you hear about it
the
forever.
OGs. But no, but to your point, like you got to see like the definitive version, because I'm trying to think, because I've seen it a couple times, but I think the only time I saw it with like the live maybe accompaniment was the one that it was like 2002, but then they found like another copy, or they found like other stuff after that.
Yes.
And I saw that one, but I don't remember if it had the live accompaniment or not. And I think I saw it, but I might not have. I might just be like misremembering that. I might think that I saw it and instead I read about it.
It works as a silent movie. Like you can get involved in it without a soundtrack, but it is a different experience to see it with accompaniment.
I was amazed at, especially, I don't know if it's Bridget Helm, the woman who plays Maria, sort of the star of the movie. She plays two different Marias. One is a robot clone and one is the actual Maria. So she has to, and she's dressed the same in both cases. And so she has to, in a silent film, make it clear when you're looking at, like the clone Maria or the real Maria, and the acting that it took to make that real was like amazing. She was amazing. And I was surprised to feel so many things in that movie. Generally, I thought it was going to be sort of an academic thing to watch that movie. But anyway, what it was for me also, though, was just like, I just got out of my head. It was just awesome. It was so nice to be in a story other than one I'm telling myself. And then just a little piece of trivia came out of it that's fucking nuts, which is that, so this woman, let's call her Bridget Helm, this was her first movie, 1927. She's amazing. She did a bunch of more movies before retiring in 1935 because the Nazis had taken over the film industry and it disgusted her. But there's a really crazy little piece to her history, which is she was apparently involved in several traffic accidents. This is on the Wikipedia page, and was even briefly imprisoned. Right, and one of her accidents ended up in a death, and so she was facing charges of manslaughter. And there was a certain person in power at the time who noticed she had a case and got it dropped. That person was her fan, Adolf Hitler. So I was thinking how much it would fuck me up if A, I had killed someone in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
B, had the elation, the strange, guilty elation of having that case dropped.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And C, was recognizing over the course of the next 10 years what it meant that Adolf Hitler was that man. Because
that's a real roller coaster.
No, it is.
My God.
Okay, so that right there, that's like a movie. Like that.
Yeah.
That's like, okay. Because did either of you see Tar?
No.
Okay, it's great.
Yeah, I hear
Kate Blanchett, Todd Field, and it's fake, but it's great. But like that to me almost feels like you could do a Tar like thing, but about her. Like yes. That would actually be an interesting sort of thing. Like, to do kind of like a character study on this woman who has to deal with that stuff too. And then it's also like, okay, this is your first big role. It's this masterpiece, but then it happens at this, time, and then all these other things happen and having to grapple with it. Like, what's her face? The Nazi documentarian who did Triumph of the Will. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm looking it up so we get it out of our system.
Leni Riefenstahl.
Got it.
I knew it would come to me.
You just got to give her a sec. She always gets
I was gonna with this stuff I do. No, but that's like I've always, there've been a lot of talks over the years about like wanting to make films about her story, and that has also, but that's complicated for so many reasons. And but that's another character who I'm like, oh, she's so flawed. And not to say that this actress is, because I think it's totally different, but just to talk about kind of like in that era of, aligning yourself with these people, right, with someone like Hitler, and having it tied directly to your art form, and being completely, like unretractable from it, which obviously, again, like, she as an actress didn't, like, she quit because she didn't want to be doing those things, and made that stand, and still wound up benefiting from Führer anyway. But anyway, just has me thinking about Riefenstahl, because that's whole thing is just really interesting. There's so many interesting stories, I think, about like ethics and art, and like, I don't know. It's fascinating to think about.
Here's the little rabbit hole I just went down. Okay. So I was using SearchLink to build out our show notes, and I have a TMDB, like the movie database, which is like IMDb, but actually has an API that you can search.
Yeah, right.
So SearchLink returned for Metropolis, it returned /movie/19, and I was like, oh, do they do these in some kind of
that's what I was thinking
chronological order? Is like, and so what's number 18? Number 18 is The Fifth Element. And number 2, there's no number 1. Number 1 returns a 404. Number 2 returns, what was it?
Ariel. Ariel. I've never heard of this. Ariel, a drama comedy crime from rated K-12, so it's foreign.
1989.
It is available on the Criterion collection service, which I have.
I wonder where these IDs come from, though. That's so
me too.
Weird.
I'm like very interested now. Yeah, because it's on the Criterion channel. This is a
3
Finnish
is
film.
Shadows in Paradise. 4 doesn't exist. 5 is 4 Rooms. I loved 4 Rooms, but I don't see how that comes before Metropolis in any numbering system.
Someone needs to watch those films in order.
Okay.
That database.
Okay. You just invented a podcast, like a really podcast that would appeal to.
We're gonna
like
go through in order.
No, but honestly, I bet you would have a bunch of people on Letterboxd that would totally be like down for that.
Right.
My favorite,
the TMDB podcast.
The only line I remember from 4 Rooms, like I enjoyed the movie, but the only line I remember is Madonna saying, "Hell of a night, huh, Ted?" And that comes up for me all the time. Anytime something weird happens, I just say, "Hell of a night, huh, Ted?" And then I have to like pause and remember why I say that, where that came from. Which reminds me, favorite line from, I'm rewatching BoJack Horseman right now. My favorite line this week was, "It's hard to describe, but I also don't know it if I see it."
That's awesome.
Okay.
That was it.
That was it, huh?
Well, because the whole bit about it takes me out of my head, and
it's good, which I think is beautiful. I'm glad you got to experience that. And now I'm remembering, I did not see, I have seen the restored version, but I didn't have any sort of live accompaniment, so it was just like whatever version of the score they were allowed to get. On that Wikipedia page, you will find out, unsurprisingly, that film, of which there are multiple versions and lost things and whatnot, there have been fights over like who is allowed to like create scores and not scores and other stuff. But now it's all in the public domain, so that's also fun.
As of this year, I think, right?
As of January 1st, which it hit the 95 year mark or whatever.
That's awesome. Brett is apparently cleaning his gun.
So I have this screwdriver from like iFixit, and you can like rotate it.
Yep.
And every time you rotate it and push it in, it brings up a different screw head.
Yep.
Or like a different bit. And I broke it, and now I can't push it in or turn it. And
wait,
now
is that what you've been fucking clicking the last 3 episodes?
No.
When I'm editing them, I hear this tick, tick, tick.
My fidget toy is a lock blade that snaps open.
Got it.
And I sit and I fidget, and I don't even realize I'm doing it, but I sit and just flick it open and close it. Yeah. Let's make that. If any listeners have a good suggestion for a fidget toy that Brett can use while podcasting, But
slash
I've
self-defense.
officially broken this driver, and in the process, there's the problem. There's a bit stuck halfway. Anyway,
of course, that's exactly what it would be.
I have lost eight small screwdriver bits in the process, and I'm gonna have to like cut it open. It's gonna be a whole thing.
Stay tuned to the next episode. Hit us up on Discord.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, what do I have? I have my my Linus Tech Tips screwdriver came in, and it's pretty nice. He spent a lot of money and a lot of time building a ratcheting
like
screwdriver.
Linus Torvalds, like
no, like the YouTuber Linus Sebastian, who has like a very popular YouTube channel, and they employ a bunch of people. It's like a mini empire. He like made his own tools. It's not bad.
Awesome.
I'm gonna add that to our show notes, mostly because I feel like I need to check this out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of popular YouTubers. People keep turning me on to new YouTubers, and I'm like, I've never heard of that. And I get there, and they have like 3 million subscribers or more, and I'm like, everyone knows about this but me. And that's not even TikTok. Like I'm not surprised when I haven't heard of someone on TikTok, because I don't go to TikTok, but I spend a lot of time on YouTube, and yet I'm constantly surprised by very popular creators I've never heard of. And it's the algorithm. Like I find stuff on YouTube because YouTube suggests it to me. And
exactly.
If it doesn't suggest it, I have no reason to know about it.
Exactly.
It's a very important service in our lives. Can I say my post office bit?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Or should we do a sponsor?
Oh, we should probably do a sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Collide. Our sponsor, Collide, has some big news. If you're an Okta user, they can get your entire fleet to 100% compliance. How? Well, if a device isn't compliant, the user can't log into your cloud apps until they fix the problem. It's that simple. And what Collide does is they patch one of the major holes in zero trust architecture, which is device compliance, making sure that everything is updated and running what it needs to be running and provisioned the right way. And without Collide, IT struggles to solve basic problems like keeping everyone's OS and browser up to date. You might know, iOS has had to release a couple of 0-day patches. Google just released a big one for the Pixel 7 and I think the Pixel 6 as well. And unsecure devices are logging into your company's apps because there's nothing to stop them. Collide is the only device trust solution that enforces compliance as part of authentication, and it's built to work seamlessly with Okta. The moment that Collide's agent detects a problem, it alerts the user and gives them instructions to fix it. And if they don't fix the problem within a set period of time, they're blocked. They're blocked. That's it. They can't access anything. Collide's method means fewer support tickets, less frustration, and most importantly, 100% fleet compliance. So you can visit collide.com/overtired to learn more or to book a demo. That's KOLIDE.com/overtired. Collide.com/overtired.
I'm so glad you realized that I made a mistake, and it said Overtired 2 and without a space, and you nailed it. You saw that and you're like, that's not right. I'm gonna read it the way it should be. That was very good. We also are talking once again about another mental health podcast that we love, Mental Chillness. If you're looking for more mental health podcasts, Mental Chillness is a safe space that heals with the power of laughter. It's led by Con and Jules, 2 people with mental illness that come together weekly with occasional guests to share their daily process of working towards mental chillness. Coming from childhood environments that weren't open about mental well-being and emotional self-regulation, Con and Jules are opening up the conversation of everyday struggles of dealing with ADHD, depression and anxiety, epilepsy, and growing into adulthood. They share tips and tricks of emotional awareness from their personal experiences and how they hold themselves accountable through personal BS. And the way they know how to do it best is with humor. You can keep up with them on any podcast platform and the YouTube channel Mental Chillness for full video content. Thanks, Mental Chillness. They're also talking about us, so sweet deal there.
Say nice things, please.
Please.
Just real quick before we do the post office, I just have to say I did a poll on Mastodon. And usually if I do a poll on Twitter with 13,000 followers, I'll get maybe 40, 50 responses, people that actually vote. On Mastodon, I have 2,000 followers, and I did a poll about what programming language I should learn next. And I got 100 some responses, including multiple people that wanted to write in new options. And it was very productive. And I love Mastodon, and I'm learning Rust next as a result. I kind of already knew that. I was already planning, but I just wanted to see, like, is Go a contender? Should I be learning Scala? No, it's Rust. I'm going with Rust. But anyway, let's talk post office.
All I have to say about the post office is that I sell shit on eBay. I used to go to auctions for like steel factories and shit.
Okay.
Right? And I sell kind of obscure consumables on eBay. It's just something I enjoy. And so I go to the post office, and I was walking into the post office the other day, and I was like, this is one of the only things I can think of that is a major piece of life that has not changed in my entire life. And I mean, at all, right? Like most post offices, like even like whatever fucking computer they have at the desk has been there since computers started. And I was trying to think of other things, and I'm curious if you have any of those. I mean, because really, there's nothing like the post office. And if I were to explain it to you now, if I were to say there's this thing where if you put a certain sticky thing onto an envelope, a man will come and pick it up, or a woman, man in my case, will come and pick it up, and they will make sure that it gets across the country to a person's house. If I told you that, it would sound like it was 400 years ago.
I was going to say the DMV hasn't changed much, but it has. Like I still, if I go to my DMV here in town, like I still have to fill out a lot of paper. Like it's not electronic, but simply the advent of digital cameras has changed the entire DMV experience and license renewal process. So, and I feel like the post office has changed in small ways, like handwriting recognition, for example.
But fundamentally, if you want to send a package, you walk in with your box and hand it to a person who puts it in a bin that is also 400 years old.
Yeah. And they go with zip codes. And when it gets down to the finer details, it's up to whoever your postal carrier is to figure out the quirks in addressing. I get stuff delivered to me fairly often that has the address wrong, but has my name right. And if this were a purely automated system, that would have been returned to sender because it was the wrong address. But it gets to the right route. And then my postal carrier is like, oh, yeah, Brett. I know Brett. Here's your mail. At
the Punk Planet offices, we got this regular catalog about chick sexing, which is about,
what?
Chick sexing, which is not what it sounds like. It's about chickens.
Birds are notoriously hard to sex.
So we would get this chick sexing catalog addressed to Punk Planetarium, which was amazing. Anyway, that's my thing. That's my little thought puzzle. The DMV isn't a bad answer. I mean, it's changed, but
it has. But it's still a toil when it really shouldn't be. Like that seems like a process rife for a lot more automation and efficiency.
It seems like getting arrested probably hasn't changed that much. You know what I mean? Like it's like you still probably do your fingerprints, although it's probably on a computer, I guess. Remember when I promise not to go down any more of memory lane after this, but like, remember when running a credit card was like, they had that thing that was like the size of a shoebox,
the Xerox copy,
and they would put it down and they would just make a copy of it.
I do remember.
Okay, I'm done.
Christina might not remember, but that was definitely early credit card days for me.
Didn't go through any machine at all. They just made a copy of it.
It was barely faster than writing a check.
Yeah, okay, so I do remember this because when I worked my very first job, if the machine was down, I would have to pull this massive thing out from underneath the counter, pull it back up, and then like pull out some paper, make an imprint of the card, to put it in. And like, that's what we would do if the modem or whatever, was on the POS was down. I would have to like manually make a copy and make an imprint of a card. But that was only at that first job. Best Buy by that era already was like, no, we're completely, digitized. If the machine is down, too bad. But good old EB Games, if somebody needed to pay with a credit card for the Pokemon cards, or Final Fantasy VIII or whatever, then they could, or their Dreamcast or whatever, and the system was down, I could still take it in front of their card. But yeah,
for some reason, my instinct now, which we are not going to indulge, but my instinct is to talk about mimeographs and and those
that I've only read about.
That smell.
Those overhead projectors that teacher used to put.
Those I loved.
Like a clear laminate over and then write on with marker, and it would project in front of the class.
100%. A transparent thing.
Genius.
Yeah, I used to print those. I used to get those so that you could print on them with like my inkjet printer. So that you could then I could like give presentations like in like 6th grade and be like, look at how fancy I am.
Right.
Yeah, with like my well printed stuff or whatnot. But yeah, you would get what were those called? They were because they're overhead projectors. But there was like there
was a word for it. There was like there was like a one word name, and you knew what was happening. I can't remember.
If you know it, listeners, shout it at the speaker.
Yeah, I was
going to yell it out right now.
I was going to say, I'm only aware of mimeographs because they were mentioned in like Judy Blume books that were like written in the 70s. And I was like, what is this? What is this? Like, I have no concept of what this is. It's like, this sounds like a shittier version of like a Xerox machine. And that's what it was. But like, I, didn't know, never had to experience that, but I did have the, the overhead projector stuff. Cause like, that's what they would do in like math and shit. Like, teach out and
there's this interesting, like Xerox has come a long way, to use a brand name, but photocopying has come a long way. However, there have been recent issues where, because
the OCR
in order to most effectively and accurately copy a document, a black and white document, most modern copiers will actually scan and OCR and then rewrite. So people are running copies and getting copies with different words or different numbers, more importantly, different numbers in the output than in the input, which is never a problem back in the days of just photocopying, when it was literally photocopying.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is I read about this recently, about how like it'll randomly alter, numbers or whatever. And some of this stuff, it'll like, it's like, this flaw I think apparently goes back like a decade now that I'm looking about it, but we must have seen it from the same place, Brett, because I saw it recently too, and I was reminded of this.
Yeah,
I was
like,
like, this is so interesting.
Ago.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. And but you're right, because it is this weird thing, because you're like, okay, well, they should have just done like the old method of like the circular drum or whatever the method is, and just take the photograph. Yeah. And I understand that in most cases it is better to just like do the OCR and whatnot, but clearly it's not always the case. There was this other thing. There was this other thing that I read on Hacker News a couple of months ago. I'll see if I can find it. But there's this guy he basically was trying to figure out, I guess, if it was worth like he was doing some sort of big photography project, and he was wanting to do like a big 35 millimeter scans. And the types of machines that are made for this sort of thing, unfortunately, the software that the main maker who made these machines, which were like many tens of thousands of dollars, they stopped supporting Mac OS past a certain point, and I don't think they ever upgraded to 64-bit or something, and so you have to use like an old machine to get it to work, and the company, even though they were selling the machines until only a few years ago, like refused to basically update anything. And nobody's making these types of scanners. But if you're doing the sort of precision work that this guy wants to do, of like these full frame, like 35 millimeter scans from like certain full frame cameras, you need to use these super rare, hard to get, and very, very expensive scanners. And everybody in Hacker News, because it's a, hellhole of well, actually, aspies and jackasses, like they were all like, well, why can't you just use this Epson scanner? This is like the same DPI and whatnot. And the guy was like, no, it's not. The detail that it collects is not the same. And it's interesting that as much as technology has improved in some ways, the old kind of barrel drum ways that like a scanner worked, like, 40 years ago, is still superior to what the current kind of method would be for capturing things, like cheaper. It's fascinating to think about that. Like, it made me think about the Xerox thing, because I get why they do it the way they're doing it, and are doing like the manual, like the computer aided OCR stuff. But at the same time, it's like, you're not actually getting the copies you think you need. You've introduced a problem with all this stuff that you didn't have, which is terrifying.
So speaking of advances in technology,
yes,
we should, if we were responsible podcasters, switch to Gratitude at this point. But
time.
We do you have some time?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have put off talking about AI for a couple weeks now, and
in fairness, assuming the AI would talk about itself.
This is true.
Yeah. But like last week, ChatGPT 4 was introduced. Google finally came out with their Bard. Microsoft made their ChatGPT powered Bing public, and then just very, very recently, GitHub announced Copilot X, which there's just so much happening so fast right now.
Crazy.
I'm kind of curious, especially I feel like Christina is going to have a lot to say about this. But Christina, where would you start this conversation?
Well, I think that GPT-4 and then I guess also Google, release or opening the waitlist for Bard are kind of the two things, I think. Copilot X is not a product, so to speak, as it is kind of like a vision of where we're envisioning like stuff, like what the future of things can be. So some of the stuff will probably make its way into, Copilot, like the CLI and the ability to chat with it both for voice and with text, and some other stuff. And some other things are, kind of more experimental in nature. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I think that it's shocking to me. Like I've been kind of beating the drum for the show, the developer news show that I write and do every week since probably, I don't know, June or July. I really made like the conscientious decision to be like, hey, this LLM stuff is becoming really, really big, and we're starting to see a lot of really interesting things happening with generative AI beyond just GitHub Copilot and some of the other things we'd seen, first starting with the art stuff, and then now ChatGPT and then now all these add-on things. But to your point, like it's crazy when you think that really how much stuff has changed since December when ChatGPT was released. But also if you go back even further, like if you go back to when Stable Diffusion was announced, which was like August, and where we are now, it feels like a lifetime ago in some respects.
Have you seen Adobe Firefly?
Yeah, I saw that. That was also announced this week.
It kind of fixes everything that was really wonky about like DALL-E.
Yep.
As far like to actually use it for creative purposes, to actually use it for like production purposes.
Yes.
Firefly addresses so many of those AI image generation concerns. Yeah, like this shit, like people naysay right now, like here's what's wrong with it. But at the rate things are happening, everything you're complaining about right now is going to be fixed. Give it a year, max 4 years, and everything you're talking about being wrong right now is going to be fixed. Like this is here to stay. This is the future. The internet, the world of computing is changing underneath our feet. People my age are going to have to make a decision to get with it and to become fluent in AI prompts, or to try to eke out a living in what will soon be old school computing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I definitely think that we're all going to have to become better at like prompt, generation
There's a whole market out
There
there
is.
for like
Yeah.
prompt generation courses.
Oh, there is. And that's sort of the interesting thing. But I think that to me, like what you mentioned about Firefly, like to me, this is where I think we're actually going to see really innovative art is when actual artists are using this stuff in their process, right? Like it's one thing if you're giving it a prompt and it makes something that looks okay, and you can with the perfect thing and the exact right response and the right tweaking, you can get a really great looking thumbnail, right? But then if you zoom in and you go too close into it, then you're like, actually this looks a little bit jank, but it's still really impressive. But when you then take something and go, okay, well, I have these editing tools and I'm an artist and I'm able to tweak the model even more so to give it the right sorts of results that I want. And then me as an artist, I could go in and alter, and make cleanup and make changes. That's where I think that's where we're going to see really exciting stuff.
Firefly can do vector,
Right.
which means it's way easier to fix issues.
That I didn't know. I didn't realize it was vector. That's amazing.
I took Draw Things that, like, you mentioned Draw Things as I think a gratitude a while back, or you brought it up on the show. So
Yes.
I was checking out Draw Things and I was using the Mac version of it. And in just 4 prompts, I got a perfect. I needed a blonde, like 20-something with a red hat screaming for various political purposes. And I was able to get like like exactly what was in my head in 4 prompts. Like it took 4 permutations of the prompt, and I got exactly the image, like an image that I had no royalties, no ownership, and I could just use however I wanted to talk shit about an AI generated human being. But yeah. And the video there. So most of the AI video stuff, I believe, I don't think there's anything out there that for free will generate more than 3 seconds of video right now.
Right.
Because the potential for deepfakes is just so dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But I can make Obama for 3 seconds. I can make Barack Obama say anything I want to, literally anything. And it's completely convincing.
The voice stuff is even scarier because the voice models have become really, really good. And it's one of those things that I become a little bit worried. Like, I'm not worried about anybody impersonating me for like ill will, right? Like that's not so much my problem. My issue is more, I'm like, okay, there are thousands of hours of my voice out there that someone could train something to. And then if they got my parents' phone number or whatnot, like this is a great way of doing, the email scam where you send, I'm stuck in a foreign country, wire me this money. Okay, now you can do it using someone's actual voice.
Which is way more convincing, sure.
Which is way more convincing, especially if you then spoof a phone number or something. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So I do worry about that. I worry about the deep fake stuff for sure, but I think that I'm hoping that yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I'm hesitant to call for more legislation and stuff just because I think that the government does such a terrible job with tech in general that even if I think that we need more legislation, I don't have any faith that the Congress has any understanding of what they're talking about at all on any level. But this is one of those areas where we're going to have to figure out things about like deep fakes for things like, pornography and for impersonations really fast because the tools are getting so good, like turnkey, just like anybody with like, using a web interface can do voice stuff.
Well, yeah, I made a pretty convincing minute-long rant from Elon Musk talking about how he'd been a bot the whole time, and that his vengeance towards bots on Twitter was actually a very self-defeating tactic that he was using to convince people he wasn't a bot. Like, I wrote out a whole script. I had it read in Elon Musk's voice, and honestly, it sounds like Elon Musk giving an interview. Maybe a little more lucid than he usually seems in interviews. But yeah, like the technology is there now, and and it's scary, but also at the same time, holy shit, we can do anything.
Yeah, it's exciting too.
Christina, will you kind of tell us about GitHub's Copilot X?
Yeah. So the big thing is that so GPT-4 was announced last week, and it's out now. In terms of like the if you pay for ChatGPT Plus, you get access to it, and the API there's a wait list, but I think they're adding people to it fairly quickly. And the model is significantly better in some ways. It is a little bit slower in some regards. So when it comes to the model that Copilot uses, we haven't moved everything over to GPT-4 yet because we need to make sure that the speed and that stuff will be there. But there are some things that we will be using GPT-4 for with Copilot. So Copilot, if you're not familiar, is basically our pair programming assistant. That's why it's your Copilot that gives you suggestions and can generate code for you as you're going along. And it takes it both from like your style, but also the code that's within the different projects that you're working on. So it's the more you use it, the better it gets. And so like if you have a bunch of different files open all in a project, it's going to be able to use that data to kind of infer, the style that it's doing and what suggestions it's giving you. But one of the things that you can do with one of the GitHub Copilot X things is that although you've been able to ask questions in comments before, now they've actually kind of built in like a chatbot type of interface. So it's like you have a more ChatGPT type of experience directly in your IDE. So you're not having to move to another app. You can do it alongside that and then, insert the code that way if that's what you want to do. You can also explain code blocks. We'll even do things like in different languages. So you can say, okay, you can write something in Spanish and it'll give you, the corresponding code that way. We're also working on something. I see a beautiful cat right now as I'm talking. I love him or her. We'd previously called this Hey GitHub, but now it's going to be I think a Copilot voice. I think, don't quote me on that. Basically, where you can verbally talk to your IDE and generate things that way. But then some of the other exciting things are trying to bring this into other ways. So like there's Copilot for docs, which so far we have working with MDM and Azure's docs and like the React docs. And so this is a way where it's been kind of trained on all of that documentation. So you can use that to ask questions and search better, which I think is really exciting. And then what Brett is going to be super stoked about, and me as well, I've been using it for a couple of days. It's really cool, is there's a Copilot CLI. So you can actually use it in your terminal to, say, okay, build me, watermark a video for me using FFmpeg. And it will do that for you. Or write me a regex that does these things. And it'll do it for you and also explain step by step what it's doing, which is I mean, like that's going to be really great for me.
I want to use it with FFmpeg and Pandoc and just
totally.
something that knows all of the flags and switches and can just tell you here's what you need.
Yes, I take it. I'll take it. I love it.
I wish so. As listeners know, I have never made the switch to VS Code. I have been using VS Code just because that's the only place GitHub Copilot will work.
It also works with JetBrains.
Sure.
And NeoVim and NeoVim.
I'm a Sublime Text guy, and while there have been some ChatGPT extensions, plugins released for Sublime Text, they are far behind what VS Code can do. So I will actually open up a project I'm working in Sublime. I will open it in VS Code just to say, hey, write me yard comments for this Ruby function, or tell me how to debug this error I'm getting, and it'll figure it out. Like, it's amazing for debugging. If you have code that's currently in an REPL, a REPL, if it's currently returning an error, Copilot can debug that error and tell you how to fix it. It's so fast. It's nice.
The thing I wonder is like using AI for coding still requires an ability to do computational thinking, right? I wonder how far we are from where that is not going to be necessary at all.
we're getting closer than you would think. Like one of the things they showed off in the OpenAI did a developer live stream for GPT-4, and one of the things they did was that GDB, he took a photo, like he basically drew out like what a website would look like. He wanted to create like a joke generator. He took a photo of it, he uploaded it, and then used his Discord bot to kind of ingest that into GPT-4, and then it made that into code.
Wow.
And also did the JavaScript and the functional stuff. So
freaky deaky.
Yeah.
For at least a decade now, we've been promised technologies that would allow non-coders to code. I mean, even SQL was originally developed for non-coders to be able to work with databases. And I'll be honest, SQL takes some knowledge.
It does.
Oh my God. When you get beyond like, show me, this from this column.
Show tables.
Little Bobby tables.
But we have been promised this for over a decade, this no-code kind of approach. And I feel like this is finally the technology that is going to make it possible for someone to envision a problem and have it solved for them.
Yeah.
To be able, obviously you want them to have some power, some agency in the process. But yeah, we are definitely on the horizon seeing an era where a 6-year-old kid can say, this is what I want to do. This is what I want my program to do. And have the program that does exactly, if they know the right question to ask, it'll do it.
Yeah. We're getting close. And I mean, the thing is that because there have been some really decent like low code, no code solutions.
Yeah.
There's a company I like a lot called Retool.
Yeah.
But even that one, you really need to understand like databases a little bit. You need to kind of an understanding of what you're wanting to do. It's not really as drag and drop. Like this is what I wanted to mention. There was a great article, speaking of Retool, on their website last week. They published on history of Visual Basic. And it was just this beautiful, beautiful website, this beautiful blog entry. That was just like a fantastic thing to look at, and B, like every detail of the bitmap fonts and the design. It's also like this exhaustive, like 5,000 plus word, like kind of oral history of Visual Basic. And I feel like, we never really replaced Visual Basic and HyperCard in the web era. Like for whatever reason, we just didn't do it. And, maybe Flash was maybe the closest thing we came to that, but then that really didn't go far enough. And so we've lost that. And now I almost feel like we might finally get back to that, but with this addition of, making it even easier in some regards, for people to get like, MVPs and proof of concepts running. Because I don't think anybody would argue that like the code you're going to do is going to be like the greatest code or like the cleanest or anything, but it's going to get you out closer to an idea to go from there. Same as the art, right? It's not like the art that these prompts generate are the works of art, but it's giving you a starting place where then you can alter that and build off of that.
In my experience thus far, I have taken stuff that I've written that I am perfectly confident in, and I have asked GPT to rewrite just to see what it would spit out if I said, rewrite this function. And it has provided code that was more in line with like modern coding practices, that was more efficient, that was shorter, that was more readable. Like it has always found a way. And it always gives me like a bullet list of why it did what it did.
Yeah.
At first I was like, yeah, you can use it to write code, but you're going to want to check everything it does. It's already like in a month, it's already getting better to the point where I actually trust it to rewrite functions for me. And there have been times that I've had it rewrite a function and then I've run, spec tests on it and it has failed for various reasons that have required some knowledge to figure out what went wrong. But for the most part, like as far as adhering to modern coding practices, adhering to, like you were saying, like it can understand a coding style and match it. That it's spectacular in that regard.
Yeah, it will do the false hallucination thing. We'll just kind of maybe
Yeah.
create APIs that don't exist, or it will create, kind of
Dude.
endpoints just for things that's not really there, right? It will go that far, and it will kind of trick you, or it will give you an explanation for something that will sound really great and be like, no, that's not actually true. But it's, these things are imperfect. But when they work and they work well, I would say like 90% of the time in a lot of these cases, it feels freaking magical in a way that I don't know. I'm excited by it. I know a lot of people are freaked out from the ethical implications, and I'm not discounting any of
Sure.
that. But I think about like all the cool shit that's going to get created because of stuff like this.
Did I tell you guys about the support request I got from Marked because someone had asked ChatGPT how to do something?
No.
Someone was looking for a way to split a markdown document based on its headers into multiple files, which is a thing. Sure, I have written scripts that do this.
Sure.
But ChatGPT 3 told them that Marked, my application, could do this, and then proceeded to give them the exact menu options to use to accomplish this task, none of which actually exists in the application. But it had given them very detailed, very realistic sounding instructions for how to accomplish this with Marked. And they wrote me and they're like, so can it actually do this? And I was like, no, this is obviously an AI fever dream for a feature that I never had it to Marked. But it was ridiculously detailed.
Until you check the next day and the feature has been added. It's total son of Anton situation. Yeah.
Yes. Oh man. All right. Should we this will come up again. We're not done with AI, but should we
AI is not done with us.
No, it's not.
Should we do some gratitude?
Let's do some gratitude.
I can go first.
Go for it.
So there's this app that one of you mentioned last week in talking about another app, and I had actually never heard of it, and it's Mac Updater.
Yeah,
somehow I've never heard of it, though it's clearly by the design, it's clearly been around a long time. Is that true?
It's been around I think like 4 years.
Okay, not that long.
No, and version 3 just came out.
So it's wonderful for anybody that doesn't know it. It's just it gives you a really nice interface for seeing which of your apps have updates available. It's also a really nice way to read the notes on those updates. Really awesome for me. I always miss those otherwise, and this actually, I've noticed I end up going into the developer's notes before I update because it's just so easy to do. And they also have like a discover function, which I have not used that much, but it's
interesting. You can see if you want to find out what apps are currently under frequent development, the discover tab is great.
Yeah, and what's free and what costs money, and what's popular and what's not, and what's a minor update and what's a major update, or what is their minor? Or what does that mean actually?
Semantic versioning.
Yep.
Like a major update is, so you have 1.0.0, right? The 1 is major updates. The first 0 is minor updates, and the third 0 is patch updates. So if something says major update, it's going from like 1.0 to 2.0. But if it's a minor update, it's going from 1.1 to 1.2. And then a patch update would be like 1.2.1 to 1.2.2.
Okay, got it. The other thing that I noticed when I was going to buy it is that they have this really awesome policy where if you're a student or a resident of the 40 least wealthy nations, you get a significant discount. And I was just like, that's like a cool little thing to add. Like I've never seen that before, ever. And so anyway, it's just a lovely, simple, but complex app that is elegant and serving me well. So thanks for mentioning it last week.
Full disclosure, and Jeff had no idea, but they have sponsored BrettTerpstra.com, and they will be sponsoring again in April. I am a huge fan. Like, I only take sponsorships from things that I use and love. And their version 3.0,
it's great.
Adds things like completely interaction-free PKG like package installation. So right now in version 2.0, if you upgrade an app that requires a package install, Microsoft Teams, for example, you have to, it'll say could not complete the upgrade. You have to interact. It would pop up the package installer, and you would, tab through, enter your password and everything, and then it would finish, and then it would recognize that the update had happened. Version 3 does a much better job of making PKG installations interaction free. Like, it can just complete them for you, it's kind of a big deal, because I use Mac Updater every day, and like I have enough apps that I get an update screen every day, and anything it can update automatically, I select quick update apps, hit the button, it's done. But there's always one app that needs interaction that I would love to just seamlessly have happen. So I'm excited to start using 3.0.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they've never sponsored me, unfortunately, but I've been a fan of theirs for a long time. And I will say that the CLI tool, which is part of like the pro and like the business license or whatever, you can get like a command line utility that's included in the bundle.
Oh, nice.
That was because I requested that, and
yes,
a Christina feature. Nice.
That was a Christina feature, and I was like, this is great, because in my mind, because one of the things I like about it is that it can pull things from Homebrew, can pull things from a lot of different sources. And so if I can use it from the CLI, I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is actually great. While I'm doing my brew updates and whatnot, I can just, query Mac Updater instead of having to maybe, go through the UI sometimes. Just easier. Or if you want to build a script to do something to automate it, I was just like,
sure,
why not? Big fan of that. So
awesome.
Big +1 on that.
Yeah, love it.
All right, Christina, do you know what you're picking this week?
I do. I've got a couple things, actually. So while we're talking about AI, one of the things, that one of the cooler models that OpenAI released, and they released this 6 weeks, I think, maybe before ChatGPT, and so it didn't get as much attention, but it's Whisper, which is their speech to text model, and it can basically take and translate speech into text. And it's actually,
I tested this on our podcast. It's really good. Yeah.
It's incredibly good. And what's amazing about it is that, like, I'm going to be honest with you. I've paid for the, human translation services that you pay, like whatever the $1 a minute things for, or $10 a minute, whatever the fee is for stuff. I've done that stuff for years, and audited those things in the SRT files. And the stuff that Whisper gives you is incredibly good. You might have to make a couple of corrections, and it has a hard time with some punctuation, but by and large, it is better than anything I've ever seen from kind of like AI generated things. And because Whisper is actually open source, you can actually locally host it and run it on your own machine. So you could have like a web hosted version, obviously, but you could have like assuming you have enough RAM and enough resources, you could run these things on your own machine. The problem is that actually, if you don't want to have Python set up and run through all of that stuff, it can be a little bit complicated. And I was working on potentially like an open source project to try to make like a kind of an Electron wrapper or something with that. But that project has unfortunately kind of been sidetracked for a little bit. But there are a couple of alternatives. They don't do everything that we were wanting to do with Stage Whisper, but are getting close. And so the first one I'm going to mention is called Aiko, AIKO, and it's from Sindra Sorhus, who we've talked about his stuff before. He makes, he open sources and basically everything he does and makes his living that way. Has a bunch of great apps. He has the interface for GIFSKI, the GUI for that, and Lungo, which is like kind of like amphetamine, and he has a bunch of other stuff on his GitHub repo and in the Mac App Store. And Aiko is AI powered audio transcription. It's free. It's in the Mac App Store. It'll work on Intel and on Apple Silicon Macs. These models do tend to run better on Apple Silicon Macs unless you have a beefy GPU. And he does also have a non-App Store version available if for some reason you can't access it, but that's not going to get updated. This will run on iOS and it'll run on Mac OS. And this is just an easy way to do high quality on-device transcription, and it includes shortcut support. This is really great, I think, for most people's stuff. But if you need more features, so it uses the Whisper Large V2 model in the medium or small model on iOS, depending on what memory you have available. And so this is a really great, if you're a Mac user, really, really great way to get transcripts for your podcast or your YouTube files or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to give that a shout out. But then there's another app called Mac Whisper. It is unfortunately not open source, but there is a free version and then there is a pro version, which I actually paid for to kind of play with. The free version will do a lot of things. This will actually transcribe between a bunch of different languages. So if you're wanting to upload something in one language, it'll transcribe to others. The free version has some limited model size, but if you wanted to have faster and more accurate model sizes, you can get Mac Whisper Pro. What I really like about Mac Whisper, the free version even does this, is that it will export what it does for you in SRT or VTT subtitle export or a CSV export. So the fact that I can get an SRT file from this and then I can upload that to YouTube is fucking great, because that saves me a lot of time, and also potentially is going to save us like money from the service that we've been using to have some of my videos transcribed. It's really, really good. You can take things even directly from like the Voice Memos app, which is great. And then you can, it'll also support things from like MP3 or WAV or, M4A or whatever. You can just give it a YouTube link even, and it'll automatically like you can just enter in the URL from your YouTube video and it'll automatically start to do the transcription. You can also open files or even like create a new recording. You can choose what size model you're wanting to use. So both of those, the free version of Mac Whisper is really good. The pro version is like 16 pounds. So it's like $17 US. I feel like supporting the dev. So I'll have both of those linked. But if you're looking at a way to try to do transcription and you want to do it locally on your device, because maybe something like, Descript, which is great, but like that either isn't in your budget or you don't, like Jeff, I think this would be great for you for journalism stuff. Like you don't necessarily want stuff on someone else's server.
Huge.
Right. Especially when you're doing some of the stories you're working on, like you just don't want it there. It's like, that's like just, it could be a legal issue. It could be a lot of things. I think that both of these are really good options. So ICO and Mac Whisper.
Awesome.
Nice. And on the AI vein, my pick this week is Petey, Petey, which is an Apple Watch only app. There's not even an iOS counterpart for it, but it is just an interface to Mac GPT.
Nice.
I assume 3, but maybe eventually ChatGPT 4. But basically, like, it gives me a little complication on my watch that I can hit and ask it any question and get way better response. Like, how you ask Siri a question, she says, "Here's what I found on the web." And
yes,
he or she says, "Here's what I found on the web." And even Google, if you have a Google Home, whatever, it will often just read you a web page. And PD will actually give you usually a correct and detailed answer to just about any question you could possibly ask it. So
That's awesome.
you're in the car with your significant other and one person says something you don't agree with and you say, "I don't think that's true." And they say, "Oh yeah, look it up. This is what you turn to. This is how you look it up." And then you say, "See, PD says so."
That's awesome.
And pretty soon you're dating a robot.
Or in most cases, well, okay, PD says you're right.
No, what I was going to say is great timing on this, because literally yesterday they released an update that adds GPT-4 support as an in-app purchase. So it's $5, and then there's a $3 thing if you want to get GPT-4 support. So
yeah,
which I think is very reasonable, especially when you consider like you're not having to bother with putting in your own, open AI keys, API keys and whatnot. And this is pretty cool.
Yep. All right.
Awesome.
That was a good round. Thanks, people.
Good round.
So I guess I feel like we're at a logical conclusion here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally where we end every week.
Literally where we end.
Yeah.
Get some sleep, guys.
Get some sleep.
Get some sleep.
The system is going down now.
Hey there, good people. Before you go, we have a bunch of new places where you can interact with us. Please check out our Instagram feed, our YouTube channel, Twitter, of course, and sign up for the Overtired newsletter, which will sort of pick up where the show leaves off, with expanded show notes, a little bit of what the three of us get up to between episodes, and let's face it, there'll be some musings. How can you resist musings? You'll find details for all the ways to interact with us in the show notes and at overtired.com. And thank you, as always, for listening.